Alright guys, how is it going? It's been a minute here. I've kind of taken a little hiatus for work, I guess. I've been working my butt off, been out of town. I had to go to Georgia for a couple days and PA for a week and all over the place. The bucks are well into their summer patterns. They're growing antlers. A lot of the crops are starting to come up. I'd like to take you guys along with me and kind of show you my process of hanging a stand and, you know, why I'm putting it where I'm putting it. I would like to go over the whole process of determining where I'm hanging it, why I'm hanging it there, why I'm choosing the lanes I'm choosing, and all that kind of stuff. So I just got to stop here at the store and grab a couple ratchet straps for this tree stand, and yeah, we'll be on our way, so stay tuned. All right guys, so it was raining for a little bit and just stopped. I just got to the farm. I got all my stuff packed, and I'll tell you what, going to hang one tree stand, you know, I don't own a four-wheeler, and when you're trying to film it and carry a bunch of filming gear, God, it's a lot of crap. Tell you what, but this is gonna be cool, I think. So let's get back off the road here where we're not hearing car noises, and I'll talk to you about that. So we'll see you in a minute. I love hunting with mobile stands. You know, I hunt with all the Lone Wolf's tree stands, and I love bouncing around. I hunt on a ground blind sometimes, but I also hunt out of lock-ons, permanent stands, when the situation calls for it. And I think that's what makes you a good deer hunter. Not the only thing, but it helps you be a good deer hunter, I guess, is when you can use all these different tools based on the situations, and you're not stuck in this one mentality like, oh, I have to be a mobile hunter, and, you know, I gotta carry my stand 100 miles back into the woods or whatever every time you go hunting. I like hang-on permanent stands for certain situations, and this farm is a perfect example of that. Now, this will be the second year that I've deer hunted here. So last year, I didn't really hang any permanent stands. I just kind of bounced around with my Lone Wolf and kind of figured out what was happening on this property and what kind of, you know, deer movement it had. There were a couple really good bucks running around. There was a nice 3.5-year-old running around on this property that I'm really looking forward to hunting again this year. Now that I have a year under my belt in this property and I kind of have some areas that I want to hunt, I'm going to put up a permanent stand. The reason this property I think is a great candidate for it is because the whole property looks like this. It's just a jungle. I mean, we got big swamp, we got just old select cut and just thick river bottom. It's super thick in here. And in the fall, all this stuff drops off, all the leaves drop off, and you can see a mile through here. When I'm coming in here carrying a mobile stand and I'm hanging it and hunting and then tearing it down after dark and walking out with it and doing all that, that's a lot of time, movement, commotion. You know, even if you're being quiet, you're leaving a lot more scent on the ground because you're spending more time, you know, setting stuff up and all that. If I'm in a bedding area like this, I want to be able to just sneak in, climb up a tree, and be set up immediately. What I'm going to do, I'm going to hang a stand really far back in here. It's probably the furthest back I would want to hunt. If I'm going to walk that far, I'd rather not have a stand on my back. Usually my stands that are like furthest from my access areas, I'm going to make permanent stands just to make it easy on myself. A lot of my permanent stands tend to be rut stands too, because they're in areas far back where, you know, I don't really hunt all year long until the rut happens. Know when to use the tools you have at your disposal. Know when to use a ground blind. Know when mobile hunting and hanging and hunting is, you know, gonna help you and not hurt you. Know when hanging, you know, a lock-on is gonna help you and not hurt you. I got a place in mind. I'm not sure exactly what tree, and I'll walk through all that as I figure it out with you guys when I get back there. But this big swamp back behind me runs north and south all the way to the highway, and there's an area where there's kind of a saddle between these two hills where I've seen deer bed a lot. There was a ton of scrape activity back in the fall and rubs and all kinds of stuff. I had some pretty good pictures of bucks on trail cameras. I had a camera there for a couple months, and that's a spot I think it's pretty far from the road. I don't want to have to walk back with a stand on my back and hang and hunt in an area like that. It's really close to bedding area, so You know, the quieter I can be, the better. All right, guys, so I just dropped my stuff down here in the bottom. I'm just kind of walking around right now, just walking some of these trails. As you can see, I got this big hilltop up here next to me, and then it drops down into this big swamp. And right here, out in front of me this way, there's like this little saddle, and there's a whole bunch of deer trails that come in from across the highway, from the swamp out to the east, and across the top of the hill from the west, and they all kind of drop down in here and funnel down into this bottom. Last fall, there was a ton of scrapes, rubs, all kinds of crap down in here. I think this is where I want to be. The only tricky thing is the way this property runs is north and south, and it's very linear. It's very a skinny property boundary. Getting all the way back here, you got to kind of walk through the entire property, which is kind of a bummer. If you're hunting in Ohio, I don't care what anybody says. Everybody's always like, oh, you got to have multiple access routes. Sometimes that's not possible, period. This property is pretty much landlocked except for one road where I can access in from the south. 60 acres, really small, surrounded by private property, surrounded by other properties with hunters and tree stands on them as well. The way I'm gonna look at this stand is, since I have to walk through pretty much my entire property to get back here, I'm probably only gonna hunt this stand 2, maybe a max 4 times in a season, depending on how much action my cameras and stuff are getting back here. And in Ohio, we have a northwest wind is predominant. That would be a horrible wind to hunt this down in here. I could put a stand down on this side by the swamp, but I kind of want to be on the high ground above these deer, and I don't want to have to cross these trails to get to my stand. So I'm thinking somewhere up on this hillside here is where I want my stand. I think I'm probably gonna only be able to hunt this on like an easterly wind, which is okay because we do get those every once in a while, and I always struggle to figure out where I want to hunt when that happens. All these trails, you can see I'm kind of standing on one right now, are running north and south, and they're going right down into this thick stuff. I think, let me say this too, I think a lot of newer hunters struggle with this concept. I'm not scouting right now. I'm not coming out here on this property and scouting and looking for sign and hanging stands based on what I'm seeing right now in the woods. I am hanging tree stands based on previous seasons. So I hunted this property last year. I figured out where deer were moving with trail cameras, sightings, you know, putting 2 and 2 together, and sign and all that stuff. And now, based on that stuff, and that's why Onyx really can help you out by keeping track of all that stuff and having photos and GPS points and all that kind of stuff to kind of jog your memory. Scouting and keeping a log of previous seasons is how I base hanging my stands in the summer. I got a bunch of trails that come in from over top the hill from the west, from the highway from the north, and from the swamp down here to the east, and they all kind of converge into this one trail here. And then I got 2 or 3 trails that kind of come in from this saddle here, and then I got one more trail that kind of runs the edge of the swamp, and they all kind of converge right here where I'm standing. And from this position, I think my best option, I got a maple tree up here, right there, which I kind of like. It's big maple, a lot of branches. And then I have a really big, I'm not sure what that is. It might be another maple. Right there, it goes up. Really thick trunk. And these are both pretty far. Every other tree in here is kind of open, and if I remember in the fall, it was, you know, because I was down in here moving cameras and stuff, and I remember looking and trying to pick a tree out for the fall, and all of these trees were kind of open, especially when the leaves drop. So you got to kind of think in that manner. Am I gonna have cover in the fall when all the leaf cover drop? So if I'm walking this trail here, and right here is about where it starts splitting, there's a couple trails that go up the side of the hill. But right here's that big tree I'm talking about, and it's about probably 25-30 yards from this trail that I'm standing on right now. There's another trail between me and that kind of goes up over top of the hill, and there's a couple more trails that kind of go on the other side of it. There's a ton of deer trails in here, but most of the movement I think is going to be right down in this bottom, and that tree would give me about a 30-yard shot. The only thing is figuring out how I want to hang it. It's just a big ash tree, and there's a lot of cover when you get about 15-20 feet up. What I might want to do is get up here. There's this triple, you see this triple crotch here? I'm probably going to want to be maybe, I don't know. If my stand will fit, I might want to be in the middle of that crotch, but if it won't, I think I might have to hang the stand like straight off to the right, the way we're looking now, off of this limb right here in front of, and the stand would be like behind this limb. So it looks pretty wide, like I could, you know, shoot between these areas pretty easily, and I would still be really hidden. There's really no way to tell until you get up there. Let's go ahead and get started here, I guess. All right, guys. Well, that took forever. This tree was pretty goofy. Climbing up it, it was a little big around for my safety harness here. I'm all hooked up to the tree and everything, so I'm all safe now. I won't show you what I did to get up here. Do not recommend it. I think this is gonna work out pretty freaking sweet. Any kind of easterly wind, I think this stand is gonna be dynamite. This is facing down in the saddle here, and this is pretty open in here. I got a lot of shot opportunities, not too many. I might trim like this brush here and maybe knock out these two small, I think they're ash trees here, just to open it up a little more. But besides that, I don't really want to cut too much out of here until the fall and see how open it gets, if that makes sense. Out here is where that saddle is, pretty open, about a 30-yard shot. I'm probably gonna put some kind of scrape down in there here when I get down. Up to the west of me, up on top of the hill, got a little shooting lane here, and these are all natural shooting lanes, folks. I haven't cleared anything. And then right to the north here, I got a really good trail running up the side of the hill here, which would give me a really tight shot, but you know, got to work with what you got here. So I'm really happy with the way this stand turned out. There's a lot of cover up in here, and I even got a little peek hole to watch deer coming, you know, from the north, so they don't sneak up on me, which is kind of nice. I'm gonna climb down. I'm gonna kind of walk around the stand and kind of show you the different angles of where these deer are walking. And you know, I haven't really looked at it from that angle yet either, so I just kind of want to see how hidden it is. And then I'm gonna show you a little tip that I learned from another YouTuber at the end of this video, just to kind of give your setups a little oomph. This is about the time of the year you want to start doing it, so stay tuned for that. This is like the main trail that comes through this bottom. If I follow this up through, I'm seeing I don't got a lot of clear shots through here. And remember, these are the two ash trees, these small ash trees that I was thinking about taking out. And I think I might just do that, because right here's a really good 30-yard shot right here. Alright guys, so I finished hanging the stand, trimmed a couple lanes. I didn't go crazy with the trimming just because, like I said, it's going to look a lot different in the fall. So you really want to trim with caution because it's really easy to ruin a really good stand by over trimming it. Next thing you know, in the fall, you're climbing up in the tree and it's wide open. And you're like, holy crap, it did not look like this back in the summer. So I just cut very few limbs, 2 trees that were way away from the tree I'm hunting. So the last thing I like to do whenever I hang a permanent stand is cut myself a piece of grapevine about 1 inch or 2 inches thick, and you know, as long as you need it to be, hang it up and make a mock scrape. Got the idea from the Whitetail Solutions YouTube channel. I'm sure you guys watch that. If you're watching this, I'm sure you're watching that. Jeff Sturgis, he does an awesome job, and I've learned so much stuff from him. So if you haven't watched this stuff, please go do it. I learned this technique from him. I started using it like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, just watching his videos, and man, it works. I get so many pictures, and I'll show you right now, of bucks hitting these scrapes with grapevines. I'm just going to hang this right about waist height in a spot where I can shoot to, and kind of make a mock scrape out of it. And this is the time of year you want to start putting these mock scrapes out, because the deer will start using them and it'll just become like, oh yeah, that's the scrape that we hit all the time. You know, it'll just become second nature to them to use that scrape. A lot of times when you make mock scrapes mid-October stuff, it's almost too late and deer don't find them and it doesn't become habitual to them, you know what I mean? A lot of times if you just have a tree with a limb coming out that's, you know, 10 feet high, you can just wrap a wire around this and hang it over that limb and it's perfect. But I don't have any real good spots to shooting lanes, and this is my one really good shooting lane right here. So what I want to do, I think, is I'm going to, so I got a tree to my right and a tree to my left, and I think I'm just going to run a wire between the trees and just hang this from there and then clear this out real good underneath it. I'm leaving a lot of scent down. I'm not scent free or anything like that today. It's only June 19th, so I may bust all these deer out of here for a couple weeks, but they'll come back in here, and when they do, this will be waiting for them. So let's get started. As you can see, I got it hanging here. It's probably hard to tell, but I got a wire running between these trees here next to me, and now all I'm gonna do is tear up the ground underneath it, and so these deer will find it. And that's all she wrote. Let's get out of here. That'll do it. I just packed up. Man, I'm sweaty. Stand's all hung. Put up a mock scrape. Yeah, I'm getting out of here. Now, The one thing I do want to address while I'm walking out of here is trail cams. Now, I don't really run trail cameras this time of year. I never really run them until about August, beginning of August. That's just because, first off, batteries are expensive. I'm sure you guys know that. But second off, a lot of my properties are so small, I'm not really learning anything by running trail cameras year round. Most of these properties, the bucks that I'm hunting, aren't living on these properties this time of year. Big bucks, when they're growing antlers, they tend to seek more open terrain because they don't like bumping their antlers against brush and stuff during the summer while they're growing. This is the opposite of that. This property is thick as thieves. Big bucks tend to not really utilize this type of cover in the summer months very much. I'm not really gonna learn anything by having a camera up right now, but I will get them out in August, and I will have a whole video based, you know, just for hanging trail cameras and all my ideas and the process I use to do that. This was a quick video today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I gave you some ideas or some thoughts. That's just kind of quick tree stand setup, what I do to hang a permanent stand. I am whooped, so I'm gonna head back home and get some water and food and kind of chill out here the rest of the night. Let me know what you guys think, if you guys do anything differently, or hopefully I was pretty thorough and kind of gave you guys a good idea of what to look for. And I'm gonna get on out of here, and we'll see you guys on the next one.